Hi, um, are you able to hear me, Razan? Okay, but I can't hear you. You are on mute at the moment.
Okay, can you hear me
Okay,
now?
yes, I can hear you. I'm really
Perfect.
sorry. Suddenly the
No,
systems.
it's okay, no worries. The
Yes.
main of this session is just to tell.
Okay, that's good.
Yes,
Okay,
very clearly.
okay, that's good. So, okay, we are good to go now.
Okay, perfect. So, Syra, I'm so excited to have you today. And I will let you introduce yourself. We have people with us here on LinkedIn, but I want to start by my introduction about you.
Sure.
Um, I think you were one of the first recruiters that changed my perception about recruiters. I will never forget the experience I had with you when we went through the my recruitment process for General Motors. I remember the day that you gave me the first call. I was on my car. It was a very sunny day on a backyard, and I was very excited, and I would never forget the smile on on your voice. And I think one of the things that made that experience memorable is the way that you kind of hand holded me through the process, and took a lot of anxiety out of that of that process. So I'm so excited to have you today. And I want to start by you introducing yourself to the people that we have with us today who doesn't know Syra.
Okay, that's great. First of all, thank you so much. The introduction has really, like, made me a bit emotional, and thank you so much. Um, so a little bit about me. Thank you so much for introducing and telling about my background. Um, I was, um, I have been into the recruitment industry since I started working. Um,
Syra, come closer to
Hello.
the mic. You were Yes, now you're perfect.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so um, being in the recruitment industry, it's almost 15 years or so, and it has been a very interesting journey. Um, and from recruitment, then I moved on to talent acquisition. So that was again um, a very welcoming experience where you as a talent acquisition, you are the face of the organization. Plus, you get a chance to talk to the candidates and make them feel welcomed from that first conversation you're having with them. So that is something which I really loved about my job. Um, and then after I moved from General Motors, I said, okay, you know what? I have done a lot of recruitment. Let me do something different. And the thing which I feel like my connection with the talking with the candidates was then culminated or basically spearheaded into marketing. So currently, what I'm doing right now is marketing. When I say marketing, because marketing is a whole big terminology, you have lots of elements into marketing. Currently, what I'm doing is doing digital marketing, and under digital marketing as well, I am focusing more on the copywriting elements, which is the email marketing and doing the social media copy for brands. So this is in a nutshell what I have been doing so far.
I think this is also, maybe we will have another session talking about having that leap of faith or changing
Yes.
your career path after spending so much here in recruitment and in talent acquisition, and something that you were pretty good at. And that's one
Yes.
of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation, because I think a lot of people go to have conversation with people who are similarly applying for jobs, but very
Yes.
few people have conversation with recruiters and
Yes.
have to look at things from a recruiter perspective, not from an applicant perspective.
Yes.
So I want kind of to start off asking about currently, and I want to start broad, and then we can
Sure.
narrow things down. Currently, there's a lot of trends going on in terms of recruitment. There is an AI. There is new way of doing things. Companies are becoming more innovative. They are trying new way of recruiting people. What are the most trending recruitment trends that you've seen happening in the last couple of years?
It's a very good question which you have put, you know. See, when I left General Motors, it wasn't an easy step for me to pivot totally into. Hello? Hello? Rizan, are you there?
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so the thing is, as I was mentioning, you know, it wasn't an easy or an overnight pivot, which I did from talent acquisition into copywriting or what I'm doing currently right now, the digital marketing. So at one stage, I was on one side of the table, and after leaving General Motors, I was just trying to look into what is the market. Now, coming back to your question, what I have noticed the trends in the past 5 years, especially after COVID, things have changed a lot. Number one is we have become more global, more remote jobs have come into existence. Okay. Things which were happening at a very, like, you know, companies were spending a lot of amount on certain aspects of flying candidates from one country to the current country. That had just stopped. Everything has started happening on Zoom. So that has been one of the very important shifts which I have seen. Second thing, one very another important shift is how well you present yourself on social media. Digital footprint has become one of the pivotal roles um, in helping a candidate stand out. This is what I have noticed. Even if, let's say, for example, you're a construction worker, or I'm not talking just about the digital marketing. If you're a lawyer, you're an accountant, you are a construction worker, or you are a logistics person, even if you're a bike rider, I mean, people are there on social media. And I have been talking to friends who are still into the recruitment and recruitment sphere, and they say now when they are looking for candidates, they go on TikTok or they go on Instagram, they go on Facebook, and that's how they start looking for candidates. It's not only the resumes which has to stand out. It has, I mean, you need to make a mark on social media. So this is a huge shift which I have been seeing in hiring people.
Interesting. And I think this is also, it's also generational thing. Like I think
Yeah,
now social media tells you about the person way more than a person can tell you in a half an hour or 1 hour interview. Like
exactly.
it's yeah. So let's take that one and go into LinkedIn
Okay.
as the professional social media platform slash search engine kind of.
Yeah.
How pivotal or how important LinkedIn and candidate presence on that selection process?
LinkedIn is one of the very important professional arm in terms of talent acquisition, in terms of the employment branding. And another thing which I have noticed, Rizan, is you don't have to be just on one social media platform. You have to diversify yourself. And I'm not saying that you have to be there on each and every channel like LinkedIn and be there on Twitter and be there on Instagram, be there on Facebook, be there on Pinterest. No, you can just choose two channels in the start, and then you can move on and you can see where your audience is. When I say audience, means where your employer is looking for you. Now, LinkedIn is really a good one. When you are there on LinkedIn, the most important aspect for you is to make your profile very interesting and stand out. Just don't do the copy and paste of what you have been doing in the organization. For example, let's say we are talking about responsibilities. Um, just don't say that I was, let's say, if you're talking about responsibilities, I was managing the accounts department. No, you should not be saying that I was managing the accounts department. Start saying like how you spearheaded the development and implementation of a new accounting system, a new accounting software, and how that particular software has minimized the errors. These are some of the things which you need to bring in your digital resume. So this is how you can make yourself stand out on LinkedIn or any other social media platform, if that makes
Saira,
sense.
what it makes a lot of sense. But what if the person doesn't have that much of experience, a fresh graduate, someone who just had one job, or someone who doesn't have a lot of experience under their belt? What is the alternative for that?
Very good question. Now, this is another thing which you can do is instead of a person does, let's talk about a college person who has just finished their graduation studies and now they are looking on for a job. What they can do is where they have gone for their internships, how they have in those 3 to 6 months of their internship program, what different did they do on the job, on that particular with that particular organization. This is what they can mention. Another thing what they can do is give in.
So we lost Saira. She will be back. And I think until she comes back, I think it's very interesting to um, kind of be smart or or resourceful in terms of finding things that helps you sell yourself, even if you don't have that experience. It could be a volunteering experience, an internship, a project that you worked on during university. And even in the job that doesn't have a lot of experience, you could always find a way to. Hi, Tyra.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm sorry, I
Hi,
don't know what
welcome back.
happened, I was just kicked out. Sorry.
It's okay. Don't worry. Don't
Yeah.
worry. Carry on.
Okay. Okay. So when we are talking about fresh graduates, the best thing what they can do is the internships what they have worked on. That's what they can highlight and how they can add value to the new organization they are going. Another thing what they can do is if they have done some business case presentations to the where they have worked as an intern, that is also going to really help out. The business case presentations with the obviously with the approval of the organization, they can do it as an attachment on their LinkedIn profile. This is also really going to help them be unique, be different to the employer.
Interesting. Sarah, I want to take you back to the recruitment days, and I
Sure.
want to kind of just to spend some times on the resume, because
Sure.
kind of that's the first thing that gets people from the door.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
I want you to tell us, like, you definitely seen thousands of resume
Yep.
as you were doing your job. What are the most important characteristics that a resume should hold? Like, and I'm not talking about the format as much
Hmm.
as I'm talking about content.
Okay. Um, okay, let me just talk to you in regards to what exactly happens before a job is posted. Now that's really
Okay.
important. Yeah. So what happens is
Yeah.
just for the people who are listening to us right now, what happens at the back end is once the job is supposed to go active, before that there is a lot of chain of communications which are going on with between the HR and the hiring manager. And HR and hiring manager, they look into what sort of key skills we are looking for, what sort of experience are we looking for, and what sort of languages are we looking for. So these are some of the three elements, and also they are looking for the technical expertise. So these are some of the elements which the HR and the hiring manager they look for in the candidate. These are some of the things, and then once the job description is ready and it is the position is activated, what happens is we start looking for candidates who are filling into those particular job descriptions. when I used to get a resume, I used to look into, okay, for example, I'm looking for a social media marketing person. Now, for this social media marketing person, is the person, um, has the person been able to manage social media accounts? And if yes, how many social media accounts has this person managed? Now, this is a social media marketing person. If I'm looking for, let's say, a person who is going to manage, let's say, a data analyst. Now, when we are looking for a data analyst, what sort of a data has this person been managing? Has this person been able to look into the key trends of the organization? They are looking into the product targeting. How are they analyzing the data? So these are some of the key things which as a recruiter I'm looking into. I'm also looking into, have you completed your bachelor's degree? Or even if you haven't completed your bachelor's degree, if you have done your diploma, so how many years of experience are you carrying with you? So these are some of the key elements which every recruiter looks into when they are scanning the resume.
Interesting. And Syra, like, it's very easy for people to write list down list of skills that they have,
Hmm.
and kind how can I differentiate myself or my resume and convey these skills instead of just listing them as skills?
Okay. This is also another very good question. So instead of just writing, like, these are the skills which I have right now with me, um, you have to use, like, strong action verbs. It's just not just focusing on the duties, but also focusing on the achievements. Let's say you want to say that I'm proficient in Adobe software. So you have to say, like, I was.
She keep getting kicked out. So she's probably gonna come back. Just let's bear with her. Until Sarah comes, I will share also a tip regarding that. I think one of the best advices I was given from a recruiter who kind of reviewed my resume is to talk, not to list my job description um, in um, in my experiences, but rather talk about the stuff that I actually did, and also add numbers. And as Syra said, use action verbs. So kind of it just gives that sense of confidence, and the recruiter gets that sense that you actually did the job and not just copying and pasting from another place. I kind of I don't remember using skills as a section in my resume, but rather list my experiences in a way that convey these skills in that way. Um, Another thing that I think I would mention until Sarah comes is, in today, a lot of companies use ATS, which is a applicant tracking system software. There's a lot of companies that use AI in order to kind of filter through CVs. And so making sure that your CV has the keywords and set of skills and experiences that were mentioned in the job ads is very, very important. Otherwise, the CVs or your resume will, or your application, if you apply it directly through the platform, will automatically be filtered out, and it's not even going to reach to the recruiter table. So it's very, very important having one CV and using this CV and keeping apply is not going to help you, because I get a lot of questions, and a lot of people comes to my coaching space and they tell me, oh, Rizan, I've been applying for jobs for like couple of months. I applied for hundreds of jobs. I don't even get an email back. And if the gatekeeper is an AI or is an ATS and your resume is just one copy, you will not pass that gate for most of the time. You will automatically be filtered out. There is a lot of chatbots. There is something called magical matching now. There is something called intelligent filtering. So basically, all the resumes, all the application goes through an AI called the intelligent filtering, and the AI will automatically filter out resumes that does not have the keywords and the set of skills and the experiences that's required for that job. Another an AI that's trending these days is something called magical matching. And basically what it does, it just looks, it analyzes your resume. So it analyzes the experiences you're talking about and everything, and then see if that resume kind of match the job required, the requirements. And this is also takes it to another level. Well, your resume is now, I love that quote of, your resume is your marketing brochure. So yes, you could find someone to write your resume for you. There's a lot of people who specialize at that and they're very good, but you have to be the original content creator for your resume, because your resume tells your story and you need to make sure that it's it tells that story. So you need to write that story and then help someone to frame it with you, rewrite it with you in a way that kind of, if you feel like you don't have the right set of skills to do that, and make it flexible enough to be able to change it based on the skill set or the job requirement or the job that you are applying for, in order to make sure that you're passing the gatekeeper. Um, if any of the people that we have a question, I can start answering questions until we get Sayra back. Apologies for this. Sarah is having some technical. She's not able to join us back. I'm not sure what's the issue exactly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the points that we were supposed to talk about until she joined us, and she can continue where we stopped. Um, the other thing that I wanted to kind of touch with. Oh, she's coming. Okay, just give me 1 second. Sorry, guys. Sarah is really getting an issue with her laptop, so she's trying to reconnect. So as I said, I'm just gonna carry on talk about the topic until she join us. Back to the resume and the keywords part, and I think as I said, there's a lot of people who comes in. We have conversation about how they have been applying for job for quite some times and they're getting no response or they're not getting any response back from the recruiter. Um, I think when we are looking for a job, we're all desperate and we sit in front of the laptops and we start applying for the job left, right, and center and trying everything. Um, and while I totally understand that that's what people are trying to do, but it's very important to be able to narrow down what do you want to work, and that's built your CV around that. So having a couple of CVs depend on the jobs that you are applying for. And I think one of the as I said, as a candidate, the way you look at the CV and the way you look at the whole recruitment process is different than how the recruiters look at it. And as Syra said, the journey starts from an early time, even before the job is kind of posted out there. And when you are in at the beginning, you are in a race with a big number of people. So you want to make sure that that resume has the right keywords and get that recruiter attention to pass you through the gates. And once the resume had helped you pass through the gates, then it's a combination of your resume, the way you interact with the recruiter, the way you prepare for the interview, and the way you ask questions. And that's kind of set you apart from the other candidate who made it with you through the gates. I think I've been HR for a couple of years, and candidates who always stood out for me was candidates who were asking questions. Even when I was the hiring managers, candidates who ask questions gives you build a strong impression about themselves. The curiosity is something really, really good. And also, by asking questions, they tell you a lot about themselves. And they also help themselves because when they ask questions, they have better answer and better preparation for the interview. A lot of people, because of the weariness and we just desperately wanting that job or anxiety of lack of mentoring or lack of coaching, they don't ask questions. And while it's totally fine, and recruiters will be able to ask you to answer your questions. So do not actually hesitate to ask questions and to the recruiter. Another thing that you do is something called informative interview. So if you're applying for a job and you made it through the gate and you got into the first stage of interviews, what you could do is you could look for someone who is holding a position similar to the position that you are applying for and just search for that job on LinkedIn. It's very easy to do that and reach out to people, couple of people, and reach out to them and say, hey, I'm considering this position, or I'm currently interviewing for this position, and I see that you're doing it and you've been doing it great from your resume, from your profile, and I would love to have a coffee chat to get to know how your a day in your life looks like. And if you send that message to a couple of people, definitely one or two will come back to you, and that will give you a chance to ask them questions. And answering these questions will help you within your recruitment process, definitely. So I think these are like one of the misconceptions that people have, that they don't ask questions to the recruiters. And also sometimes when you're preparing for a presentation or preparing for a study case or preparing for something, we tend to build assumption and spend time a lot of time wasted on an area where the recruiter might not, or the hiring manager might not be really interested in that area. So when they give you that assignment, feel, master the courage and ask questions. Okay, do I build assumption, or you want me to focus on a certain area? Ask them question. Even if you didn't ask question when you have the interview, drop them an email. If you don't feel comfortable asking them, drop them an email and say, hey, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm preparing for the study case, but I would like to ask a couple of questions. That's, it shows a lot, it tells a lot about your character, it tells a lot about how you do things, and it also helps you answer the question and nail it. So a lot of these misconceptions about the recruitment process are very, very important to kind of just be bold. And what's the worst could happen? You get no answer, or you get a like a not very nice answer. That's not going to kill you, right? Yes, it is not nice, but at the end of the day, you could survive that. So that's one thing I would suggest to people to do, and keep that in. Another thing that a lot of people do is they reach directly to the recruiter. And while that is definitely something I would recommend, especially if the recruiter is posting the job. So if they put their name out there, their email out there, you definitely could reach out. However, you need to keep in mind that you're not the only person who does that. So recruiters are usually swamped with messages if they post a job or whatever. So the question here is, how can you do that authentically? And how can you do that in a way that makes you stand out from the other 100 people who are doing that, right? And even if the recruiter is not currently posting a job, what can you do to make sure that that recruiter remembers you? So let's take it two cases. So let's say a recruiter posting a job and their contacts are there and you're reaching for that person, right? So you need to make it short and engaging and different. So you have to find a way to tell that recruiter, I am an interesting person and someone that would be nice to meet. So you have to kind of be creative. I remember one of the candidates I had sent me a video message, and that was quite interesting. They just like nothing fancy, with their phone, a selfie, and he just told me a couple of things about himself and how this job is important, and he feels like he's the right fit for this job. And we had the interview, right? And while we did not end up hiring him for the job, I never forgot him. And a couple of months later, I had a contact person who was looking for a job for a candidate, and I referred them, and he ended up getting the job. So you need to kind of be try to be creative in the way that you reach to that recruiter, and also avoid long messages, very formal, and also give them something they will say, oh, that's interesting, that's someone I would, and make sure that you leave a good impression. Be prepared even for that very brief conversation. Be very prepared, because you might not end up having this job, but if the person remembered you, you will end up having, they will remember you in the next job they have, or when someone asks them about something. So make sure that you create that memorability perception when you deal with a recruiter. um, and I think another thing is um, the interview itself. A lot of people go to the interview with a lot of anxiety, which is totally understandable. I think we all do, and we kind of also do the work and do the research and get the answers and all of that, but we go in and tell what is already on the resume, or because we're so nervous, we don't end up portraying ourselves the way um, we should do. um, Three tips I can share with you on that is, the first one is practice your answers before you go. If you have someone you trust, I would say uh, let them be your interviewer. If you don't have someone that you do that with them, hold your phone, record your answers, listen to yourself, and do it again. So practice these answers. Um, Something might sound silly, but find something that calms you down before the interview. I listen to songs. Whenever I'm very, very nervous, there is certain songs that calm me down. So if I have an interview, I always, either if it's an online, I will block myself like kind of half an hour before the interview, and I will just listen to that song to kind of calm me down. So kind of find a way that calms you down and tell yourself what's the worst could happen. The worst could happen is you don't get the job. You currently don't have that job. So you actually losing nothing, right? So when you kind of be okay with losing, you go in with a different mindset, right? Because what you're going to go is, I'm going to go, I'm going to do my best. And if I win, I win. If I lose, next time I'm going to win. But if you went in with the feeling like, oh my goodness, what if I didn't do it the right way? That's what's going to kind of take control of the whole interview. Um, so I would say that's a very important thing that to do. And also another thing that's very important, like sometimes do not shy away from telling the interviewer that you are a bit anxious and you would like to have a cup of water or a cup of tea or even just 1 minute to cool down. I remember when I was on my last round of interviews for Google, and I had a director, and he asked me a question. It was a math question, very simple question, like I would answer it without even thinking. And I couldn't find the answer. Like I literally couldn't find the answer. And I think what made me panic is not knowing the answer, is the fact that I actually realized that I'm not able to answer a very simple question. So I actually told him, can I switch the camera and have 2 minutes? And he looked at me and he was like, yeah, sure. So I switched up the camera. I walked away from my desk. I drank water. And then I came and I just told myself, I took a couple of breath, and then I switched on the camera and I said, okay, I'm back, ask me again. And it kind of, first of all, it kind of broke that seriousness in the interview, because kind of like, what happened? I said, I was just very nervous. And he was like, yeah, you shouldn't be, we're chill. And then we kind of just had a very chill vibes after that. I answered the question. And it actually became a reason for me and him to have a really good relationship. Later on, when I joined Google, he became one of my mentors. So I would say, do not get panicked because something went wrong, and kind of just take a breath and just move to the next, and you will be fine for sure. Another area that me and Sarah wanted to speak about is headhunters versus recruiters. So, and Sarah is actually a very, very good headhunter. And I had the privilege to work with her. And headhunting usually happens for senior roles or for roles that's very specific that require a very specific set of experiences and backgrounds. And one of the things that I wanted her to share with the people in the session today is the difference between the two. When recruiters are more like, the jobs are kind of unified, very straightforward. As she said, they sit with the hiring manager. It's the same process in terms of determining the job requirements, capabilities, and then starting the process. However, when it comes to headhunting, recruiters focus on outbound activities instead of inbound activities. So instead of putting the post out there and waiting for applicants to apply, which is does happen, recruiters start to use platforms like LinkedIn HR solutions and recruitment agencies, or even like other platforms, to go and look for people who fit the criteria required for that role. And that's where your LinkedIn profile and your social media accounts, if you have like a professional ones, can play a very important role in that. So that piece of personal branding, that piece of professionalism, that profile on the social media is very, very important, because what they do is they start looking for people who have that set of skills. And not only the set of skills, companies these days does not only hire for your experiences. They also hire if you fit the culture. That's a very important thing, right? So there's a lot of conversation about DEI, about culture, if this person fit the culture of the company, do they have the same value? Would they be able to be part of the big family of that? So, and this notion that experiences and skills can be taught, right? I was hired for a roles that I did not have the direct relevant experience to that role, and were very senior role where I was supposed to, where like part of my responsibility is to lead a team, right? I hired people that do not have a direct experience to the roles that they, but what those people had was the right set of skills, attributes, and personality traits that showed that this person is capable to learn, pick up things, and just move quickly. So that was kind of something that's also for people who are currently in job and they want to move out, or people who are even looking for a job. There is always the inbound activity and there is the outbound activity. So yes, you're sitting, you're looking for the job and you're applying. That's part of what you do as your search. But what are you doing in order to position yourself, optimizing your LinkedIn profile, being available in network spaces, attending webinars and networking the right way, leveraging wherever you're currently doing volunteering, working on projects, side hustles, collaborations, projects that you could initiatives that you can kick off, and what are you doing in order to make sure that those headhunters are actually reaching out? And as Syra said, one of one of the benefits of COVID-19 is kind of just open the world, right? So recruiters are now looking for people everywhere. So it doesn't matter if you're sitting in Sudan, in Egypt, in Dubai. You could actually work for a company in the States, in Japan, in New Zealand. It doesn't matter. What matters is, how do you present yourself? How do you show that headhunter and that recruiter that you are a person that they want to have in their team? And who are the people that people want them in their team? People who are team players, people who have sense of responsibility, people are curious, people who think out of the box, people who are courageous to jump in. Like a lot of, like, there's a lot of opportunities, there's a lot of doors that just waiting to be knocked, right? So what's the worst could happen? Someone say no's to you. So what? It's a no. It's not a really bad. And this apply for a junior position as much as it's apply for a senior position. A lot of people who are in a senior role kind of um there is this space where you kind of get very, very, very stuck, because you want to move, but you also want to make sure that you move to the right position, to the right company, and to a job that actually adds to you, right? And so that's, and sometimes going back, especially if you're well established in a very well position, going back to that recruitment process is not something that people are comfortable of doing. So in that case, if you are in that position where you are in a place and you want to go out, what you want to do is you want to create an outbound traffic. You want to start network on the right circle. You want to connect and collaborate with people in the circles where you would want to be in these circles. So that's a very important thing to do. So we, like, I kind of just carried on, and I apologize. I'm just trying to cover for things. She is the expert on that, and I wanted her to add her nuggets. We'll try to organize something else and do that. I think in the last couple of minutes, um, another final thing I think we also wanted to talk about is negotiation, and negotiation of the salary, of the benefits. And this is something that's very, very tricky, because a lot of people, especially if you're desperate for a job, you kind of want to negotiate, but you don't want to negotiate hard and you lose the offer. So making that balance is very, very important. I think what a lot of people don't do is they don't research the job and the pay and the company. There's a lot of information you can get if the company is publicly listed. There's a lot of reports that talks about salary. You can even reach out to someone, and you if you don't want to reach out to a person at the same position where you are applying, because they might not feel comfortable talking about that, a trick to do is to reach out to someone who is below that role or above that role, because in both cases they will be comfortable talking about the pay and the benefit for that role, right? Especially if it's a senior position. So again, similar to the informative information interview, you could also look for people who are, like, if for example, if you're applying for a sales agent position in within a certain industry or within a certain companies, you could look for a competitor of that company, or someone who previously worked in that company, or a senior position in that company, and say, hey, I'm negotiating my financials, and I don't know, I want to make sure that I end up with a good deal. what do you think the range for this position? And you could also even share with them whatever you found from the research and say, hey, I found that this is the range. Is this, am I at point, or am I very far, or am I very low? So again, don't just try one person, try a couple of people and you will get an answer. But I would say my recommendation is life is a negotiation. So negotiate, negotiate, negotiate. Like, and make sure that you tell and your negotiation um, need to come from a confident place. So make sure that you let the recruiter knows that you are really interested in the job and you want to kind of find a mediating ground. But this what you think based on the research you did, based on your previous payment, based on your current responsibility. And if you can't negotiate the salary, negotiate a holiday, a stock, whatever, a benefit, a car, a fuel, a phone, a ticket. Negotiate, negotiate. Do not just take what people gives you, right? And to the women out there, like stats says that women do not negotiate as much as men. So good job for the men, but women, girls, and you need to kind of step the game, and you kind of need to know that it is okay to negotiate. And again, as I mentioned, you could always build, like, I think one thing I always did and always helped me, and I'm really quite lucky, like Sayra, and even after that I always worked with amazing recruiters. But I think one thing I always did when dealing with recruiters is I gave that recruiter my full attention, and I showed them every step of the way how grateful I am for them to take time with me. I was very careful in like how I invade their space and talk to them, but I never shied away from asking them questions, from going back to them with an email, from saying things loud. So um, I think um, and the only time that I did not negotiate because it was a wrong, I thought the company does not have, I thought the company is just starting and does not have the financial means to give me the salary I wanted. So I just throw a number, and they gave me that number. And later on, I actually discovered that the company was just acquired, and I could have actually got a better deal if I negotiate. So I would say negotiate and don't just take things as they are. Um, so for people who stuck with us until the end, thank you so much for staying. And I apologize for the technical issue. I don't know exactly what happened with Syra. I'm 100% sure it's something beyond her control. And I'm really sorry that we couldn't actually um, finish the questions and she couldn't be with us until the end. What I'm gonna try to do is gonna try to share my questions with her and get a written answers from her and share that as part of the follow-up on these sessions. Apologies again for the hiccup and for the inconvenience, and thank you for those who um, stuck with us until the end. And we'll see you next week.